On almost every street in America, there is a tree you have walked past 1,000 times without once looking up. In the last week of June, it does something strange. The whole crown begins to hum, loud enough to hear from across the road, because every honeybee for a mile has come to drink from its flowers. In Berlin, the grandest boulevard in the city is named after this tree. In France, grandmothers have steeped its blossoms into a soft, golden bedtime tea for more than 300 years. And here in America, where it shades more streets and parks than almost any tree we plant, almost no one drinks it. The blossoms perfume the whole block, then fall to the sidewalk and get swept into the gutter. The tree Europe built boulevards around, and America sweeps into the drain, is the linden. For most of the people watching this, that is the whole relationship. A nuisance that drops sticky flowers on the car. But 200 years ago, your own great-grandparents, on one side of the ocean or the other, knew exactly what to do with those flowers. Somewhere between then and now, the knowledge slipped out of the American kitchen. That knowledge was never lost. It was only set down. And we are about to pick it back up. Welcome to Nature's Lost Vault. This story does not begin on an American street. It begins in the old forests and village squares of Europe, where the linden has been a sacred tree for as long as anyone has kept records. Germanic villages held their councils and their courts beneath a central linden. Lovers met under it. Some of those trees are still standing today, 700, even 1,000 years old, older than the countries around them. The Germans call the flowers Lindenblüten. The French call the tree tilleul, and a cup of tilleul before bed is still as ordinary in a French home as chamomile is here. Every summer, the same routine repeated across France, Germany, and the Balkans. When the trees bloomed, families gathered the flowers by the basket, dried them in the shade, and stored them in jars for the long winter. A homemade pharmacy for fevers, head colds, restless nerves, and children who would not sleep. But the linden was never only Europe's tree. And here is the part most people never hear. North America has its own native linden, the tree we call basswood. And the people who lived here long before us knew it just as intimately, only for something different. Indigenous nations across the eastern woodlands stripped the soft inner bark, soaked it in water for weeks until the fibers loosened, and twisted those fibers into rope, fishing nets, baskets, and woven mats strong enough to last for years. The same tree fed their bees and softened under their carving knives. 2 continents, 2 peoples, 1 tree. And on both sides of the ocean, it was treated as something useful, even holy. So how did half of that knowledge go missing on this side of the water? The answer is not a villain. Nobody outlawed the linden. No government agency declared it dangerous, and no company bought up the groves and locked them away. What happened to it in America is quieter than that, and in a way much harder to fix. Start with how this country chose to see the tree. To a European, the linden was a medicine tree first. To an American lumberman, it was basswood. And basswood was money of a very different kind. The wood is pale, light, and so soft and even-grained that it carves like butter. By the 1800s, American mills were turning it into shipping crates, yardsticks, broom handles, piano keys, window blinds, and the hidden frames of cheap furniture. We looked at one of the great medicine trees of the world, and we saw lumber. So we planted it everywhere, by the thousands, for shade and for timber, and never once thought to look at the flowers. Then came the second turn, and this one seemed small at the time. It wasn't. In the early decades of the 20th century, American medicine moved indoors and into bottles. The corner pharmacy and the brand name remedy replaced the kettle on the stove. A tea you had to climb a tree to gather could not compete with a manufactured pill you could buy on the way home. Nobody decided to forget the linden. It simply stopped being handed down. One generation quit brewing it, the next never watched them do it, and within about 50 years, a tree that had been a household name on 2 continents became, to most Americans, just the messy thing dropping flowers on the driveway. Here is what makes that forgetting a real loss, and not just nostalgia. When modern chemists finally looked closely at linden flowers, they found the old grandmothers were onto something. The blossoms are loaded with plant compounds called flavonoids, including one named tillerost, along with quercetin and kaempferol. In animal studies, extracts of linden flower calmed the central nervous system in a measurable way. In one of those experiments, the extract deepened and lengthened sleep and reduced anxious behavior. Researchers believe it works partly by nudging the same calming pathway in the brain that many prescription sedatives target, only far more gently. A team led by a researcher named Coleta, publishing in the journal Pharmacopsychiatry in 2001, tested linden against anxiety in a standard laboratory model and saw a clear calming effect. The following year, a separate group led by Matsuda isolated that compound, telluroside, from the flowers and showed it helped protect the liver in lab models. Now, the honest part, because this channel does not deal in fairy tales. Think about that record for a second before anyone oversells it. The 2 small human studies on linden's calming effect actually disagreed with each other, and the large gold standard human trials still have not been done. So what we really have is 300 years of consistent use across many cultures, plus early laboratory work pointing in the same direction. That is not proof of a cure. It is something more honest, and frankly more interesting. It is a folk remedy that modern science keeps finding reasons to take seriously. Even Europe's drug regulator, the European Medicines Agency, formally lists linden flower as a traditional herbal remedy for stress and the common cold, and simply advises keeping it to about 2 cups a day. So let's make sure you can actually use it, because this is the easiest harvest in the whole forest. Finding the tree is simple once you know the trick. Look for leaves shaped like a Valentine heart, with a base that is slightly lopsided, one side higher than the other. Then look for the giveaway no other tree has. The flowers do not hang from a normal stem. They dangle beneath a pale, papery, strap-shaped little wing, a modified leaf called a bract, as if the tree attached each cluster of flowers to its own tiny green sail. When you see those sails in late June and early July, you have found a linden. If you cannot spot them, close your eyes and follow the humming bees and the smell of honey. Harvest the flowers with that pale wing still attached on a dry morning, just as they open, when the perfume is at its strongest. You can brew them fresh or dry them in the shade and keep them in a jar all winter, exactly the way a French grandmother does. To make the tea, drop a small handful of fresh flowers or a heaping spoonful of dried ones into a mug. Pour water that has just come off the boil, cover it so the aroma stays trapped inside, and let it steep for a few minutes. What you get is pale gold, faintly sweet, somewhere between honey and warm hay. If you can find basswood honey from the same kind of tree, stir a little in. Keep it gentle, and keep it sensible. About 2 cups a day is the amount Europe has leaned on for generations. It can make you pleasantly drowsy, so this is an evening drink, not a morning one, and not something to have right before you drive. And if you want one more gift from the tree, the young spring leaves before they toughen are a mild edible salad green soft enough to go straight into a sandwich. The pharmacy on the corner locks its glass doors at night. The linden 2 doors down never does. Which brings us back to that humming tree on your street and the flowers in the gutter. They were never trash. For most of human history, on both sides of the ocean, those exact blossoms were treasure, gathered by the basket and guarded in jars against the coming winter. The tree did not change. It still blooms every summer, still calls in the bees, still offers the same quiet medicine it always has. The only thing that changed is that we stopped reaching up to take it. This year, when you hear that tree start to hum, you will know exactly what it is and exactly what to do. If this vault changed how you see the trees in your own neighborhood, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault and stay close. The next vault opens soon.